Hi everyone, this is Art Smalley, President of Art of Lean Incorporated, and today on behalf of the Lean Enterprise Institute, I have another improvement video for you. Last time we talked about the concept of ECRS, which stands for Eliminate, Combine, Rearrange, and Simplify, and it was an early American or Western methodology that had a lot of influence on the early stages of Kaizen development inside of Toyota through the Job Methods program. Today we're going to talk about three concepts that are more Japanese in origin, and collectively we call them the three Mus. Mu is short for Muda, Mura, and Muri. Three Japanese words which have some ability to translate into English, but they don't quite fit perfectly, so we often leave them in their original Japanese form. But in this video, I want to expand upon some of the concepts in these two books, Lean Lexicon and Kaizen Express, and help you get a better sense of what I mean by the terms Muda, Mura, and Muri, and how you have to think about all three when you pursue any type of improvement or Kaizen actions. Okay, first, let's explain the basic concept of Muda, Muda, and Muri. Use an example from the Lean Lexicon. Okay, this example is on page 66 and 67 if anyone wants to look it up and check me. But it uses the example of a truck carrying some material between stations, between factories, for example. And the truck has the capacity of carrying 3 tons, 3 boxes, each weighing 1 ton, for example. And it shows you a combination of things to show how the interplay of Muda and Muri and Muda often come into play together and not in isolation, while you can't just think about waste alone sometimes. Okay, so in the example, if you flip to it or follow along with me on the screen, it starts with an overburden example, or Muri. Now I'm going to do a follow-up video just on Muri, okay, little more in depth that goes into it, because I don't think this is sufficient, but it starts the concept in the right way. You put 6 1-ton boxes on this vehicle, and it represents overburden because it's rated for 3 tons. So this is unsafe, it's beyond the standard capacity, and you might break the axles, they might tip and fall, a variety of bad things will happen. So that represents, even though it looks like value add, just looking at it, right, 6 boxes on a truck, looks efficient, but it's not safe and it's overburdened. So it's Muri, even though it may look like, value add at first glance. The second example is now 2 trucks carrying the 6 boxes, but one truck is carrying 4 tons and the second truck is carrying 2 tons. And again, at first glance, you can look at this and say, well, I don't see the waste, right? Both are carrying something value add, but the assumption hidden in this one, explained on the next page, is that each truck is rated for 3 tons. And we also have to assume this is in value add in proportion with customer demand, needs to be on time, in place at a certain just-in-time quantity. And this is now unlevel, okay? Muda, from that point of view, unlevel, because it has 4 on one and 2 on the next, so it's not ideal. And Muda, which I'll do a follow-up video just on Muda, goes beyond this, but this gets the basic concept across. You can have unlevel schedules, fluctuation in schedules, fluctuation in work on a human or a machine that's overburdened, unlevel. And you can also have capability, fluctuations, process capability fluctuations in terms of variation. So a lot more ways to think about Muda, but this one example gets at the basics of it. And then it shows an example third of Muda, which again at first glance doesn't look bad. 3 trucks, each carrying 2 tons of material, so 2, 2, and 2. And it certainly looks level, and at first glance it looks like, oh, value add. But there's actually waste implied in this because the truck is rated for 3 tons. So each truck is carrying 1 ton less than it could, and the third truck is unnecessary. So in a just-in-time fashion, if we conveyed the right amount, the right time, right quantity, we would just need 2 trucks, is the implied meaning behind this example. Hence, there's waste in the third truck. So the bottom then shows an example of 2 trucks, each carrying 3 1-ton containers, and that would be the most efficient, effective solution for the assumption in this example: no Muda, no Mura, and no Muri. So I think that's a good conceptual example to help you wrap your head around it, and why you just can't think about waste sometimes. You have to think about the interplay between Muda, Muda, and Muri. Okay, let's look at a second example, this one from Kaizen Express. And on page 4, if you want to look this one up, at least in the version I have in front of me, it has the one-point advice section for Muda, Muda, and Muri. Okay, the three Mus, Muda, Muda, and Muri. Okay, And these three are intertwined, as it points out, why you just can't look at Muda sometimes. And this uses a conceptual example, a graphic here. You see some type of fluctuation over time, some type of time series chart. And it points out that center gray line represents process capability or capacity of some type. It doesn't really state, okay? But when you're over that capacity, whether it's human capacity or machine capacity or schedule capacity, whatever it is, you're overburdening the system, okay? It's too much for what it's rated to hold. Conversely, over time, as it cycles downward and goes below capacity, and you gotta assume in this case the capacity is what the customer wants and needs, you're under capacity. This would represent a waste or Muda, for example. And the difference between these, the peak and the trough, so to speak, that would be the fluctuation in this example, between the top and the bottom. So a perfect example here would be a flatter example without the overburden or without the underburden or waste, and something with minimal fluctuation or no fluctuation ideally, in response to customer demand, one by one in sequence on demand, or whatever the example is asking for in this case. So this is another good conceptual way of looking at the concept, and why you have to look at the three together and not just one in isolation usually. We're going to stop and just wrap up the first video here, because the idea today was just to explain the basic concepts between Muda, and Muri, and why they're interconnected. And you can't just look at things in isolation. Usually we look heavily through the Muda lens, but sometimes we neglect to look through the Muda or Muri lens, which are equally important. And I'm going to do follow-up videos on each one of these, because they all have slight problems within them. No framework is perfect. And the Muda framework and the 7 types is not perfect. And adding the 8th doesn't fix it. Just explaining Muda and Muri the way we did today is insufficient, I think, and I want to put a little broader perspective on it, a little clearer way to think about it, I hope, and we'll do that in follow-up videos. But for today, I think this will give you the basic concept and set the stage for what we're going to do next in the next 3 videos, and I want you to think about this in your line of work, whatever it is. You want to be Muda-free, Muda-free, and Muri-free in all situations to the best of your ability, or when you spot those, you want to use that as a hint that if something's wrong and you have an opportunity for improvement or Kaizen staring you in the face. I hope that helps.